Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this evening episode of Pursue. This is Pursue 15W, which is Hematology Erythrocytic Diseases. We are streaming live from the North Bengal Medical College and Hospital via Kolkata. A very interesting topic, the last for this year, the porphyrias. And to talk on that, we have somebody very vibrant, young, and very energetic, Dr. Madhumita Barwa. She's an MBBS MD pathology from the famous IPGMER Kolkata. Presently, she is an assistant professor in the Department of Pathology at the famous North Bengal Medical College. Her areas of interest being hematopathology and oncopathology. Before I ask Dr. Barwa to start, let me request all of you to please keep your mic muted, your camera off, and please do not share your screen. With this, let me request Dr. Madhumita Barwa, ma'am, please share your screen and let us start.
I am sharing my screen.
Just click on that PowerPoint twice. Yeah. Press on that hide, please. Yeah.
Is it okay, sir?
Absolutely fine. Good to go. Please start. Thank you so much.
Okay, sir. Thank you for your kind introductions and good evening, everyone. Now let's start with one case history. 11 years old girl admitted in a hospital with the chief complaints of intermittent pain, abdomen, progressive weight loss for the last 1 year, with one episode of dark reddish color urine along with some behavioral abnormalities. The pain abdomen occurred initially once a week but now increased with increasing frequency as well as intensity. The pain was generalized, sudden onset, excruciating in nature, and relieved after taking oral analgesics. For 2 days prior to hospitalizations, he developed rapidly progressive weakness in all the 4 limbs. In the past, he had 2 episodes of similar abdominal pain along with altered sensorium and 1 episode of generalized epileptic fits but without any weakness of limb. For that, he was admitted in a local hospital and discharged after 5 to 6 days after conservative and supporting therapy. And now there is no history of fever, cough, jaundice, vomiting, joint pain, pallor or rash. His family history was nothing significant, and on examinations vitals were within normal limits. Physical examinations revealed severe pain, abdomen, tender epigastrium and generalized muscle wasting. Neurological checkup showed features of flaccid quadriparesis with pain in upper limbs, but there was no sensory impairment. So the clinician advised some lab investigations, the results of which follows. CBC were within normal limits. ESR mildly increased, that is 27 millimeter in first hours. Among the electrolytes, there is mild hyponatremia. The serum sodium level was 131 milliequivalent per liter. LFT were also within normal limit. Urea creatinine was also normal. CSF analysis was also done and the result was also normal. Urine examination reveals 3 to 4 pastels but no growth. Serum amylase lipase also within normal limits. Lipid profiles were also normal. Chest X-ray, USG and CCT abdomen are also normal and CCT brain is also normal. After getting this type of result, and as the patient's mother gave history of 1 episode of reddish colored urine and some behavioral abnormalities regarding her child, the physicians further advise some more investigations like urine for orphobilinogens, urine from 5-ALA, and ALA means aminolevulinic acid, and urine for total porphyrin. All the results are positive. And nerve conduction test shows diffuse axonal neuropathy. So the final diagnosis is acute intermittent porphyria. Now treatment and follow-up, he was treated with chlorpromazine 50 mg thrice a day together with other general supportive and symptomatic measures. He had remarkable improvement within a week, and at the time of discharge from the hospital, the patient was given a card regarding the diagnosis and a list of common drugs known to precipitate the acute attacks of porphyria. So in next 1 hour, we are going to discuss porphyria under these headings like introductions, heme biosynthetic pathway and pathogenesis of porphyria, classifications of porphyria, clinical features, diagnosis, approach, and to some extent regarding treatment. Now coming, it has some historical background. The name porphyria is derived from the ancient Greek word porphyra, that means purple. In past, it cruelly referred to as a vampire's disease. I am coming to this in the next slide. And it was thought to be a cause of the madness of King George III, who ruled England during the period of American revolutions, and he was the victim of acute intermittent porphyria and showed characteristic manifestations and considered as mad. At that time, the Mad King takes some decisions that have led to a war following American independence. Next, the Queen of Scots, that is King George III's great grandmothers, is also suffered from acute intermittent porphyria. Next, the Maria of Portugal or Maria the Mad, her mental illness that made her incapable of handling state affairs after 1792 is also thought to have suffered from porphyria. Now, what is the story behind the name of vampire's disease? Due to some symptoms including loss of facial features and fingers, scarring of cornea and blindness, extreme sensitivity to sunlight, have led to common people to believe that these diseases provide some basis for vampires' legends. But this idea has been discarded both for scientific reasons, because porphyria do not cause a craving for blood, and drinking blood would not help a victim of porphyria. Next, the underlying mechanism of porphyria was first described by the Felix of Schiller in 1871, and acute porphyrias were described by the Dutch physician Baron Stokvis in 1889. This is the pictures of Felix of Schiller and the Dutch physician Baron Stokvis. Next, coming to the introductions. The porphyrias are rare inherited or occasionally acquired metabolic disorder caused by deficiency of enzymes involved in heme biosynthesis, which led to blockade of the porphyrin pathway and subsequent accumulations, increased excretion of porphyrin and their precursor. Defect of enzymes are needed at various steps of heme synthesis results in different types of porphyria. Each type of porphyria has unique pattern of accumulation and excretion of heme precursor. So the correct interpretations of biochemical investigations are more important to diagnose and managing the case of porphyria, because the clinical features alone are not sufficient to diagnose the disease and to differentiate between the various forms. Now, what is porphyrins? Porphyrins are organic compounds with 4 pyrrole rings. They are referred as pigment of life. Now coming to the heme biosynthetic pathway, it is important because for understanding the pathogenesis of Porphyria, we have to understand the various steps involving in heme biosynthetic pathway. First, we have to know what is heme. Porphyrins containing ferrous ion in the centers are called heme, and the heme containing proteins are called hemoproteins. Various type of hemoproteins present in our body like hemoglobin, myoglobin, cytochrome P450, peroxidase, catalase, etc. Now I have some general questions for you that how many heme groups are present in one hemoglobin? Hemoglobin contain 4 heme groups. Next, how many iron atoms present in each heme? The answer is one iron atom, and each iron atom holds one molecule of oxygen. Next, how many oxygen molecules each hemoglobin carries? How many oxygen molecules? The answer is 4 oxygen molecules. How much hemoglobin is in each red cell? The answer is 250 million molecules of hemoglobin per cell, and each red blood cell carries 1 billion molecules of oxygen. So what are the organs that mainly involved in heme synthesis? The main organ that is involved in heme synthesis is bone marrow, and to some extent it is liver. 85% of total synthesis of heme occurs in erythroid cells, and about 15 to 20% of heme synthesized in hepatocyte, out of which 80% is used for cytochromes. Now, which part of the cell does heme synthesis? The answer is mitochondria and cytosol. Now, how is the structure of porphyrin? The porphyrins are cyclic compounds formed by linkage of 4 chiral rings through methane bridges. When iron incorporates in the center of porphyrin, it is called heme. After degradations of heme, it gives rise to bile pigments and iron. Now the biosynthesis of porphyrins. It's synthesized partly in mitochondria and partly in cytosols of aerobic cells like developing erythrocytes and hepatic cells. It is divided into 3 stages. Stage 1, synthesis of aminolevulinic acid, that is ALA. Stage 2, synthesis of coproporphyrinogen 3 and 1 in cytosol, and stage 3, synthesis of protoporphyrin 9 in mitochondria. Now this is the schematic diagram of heme synthesis. First, in mitochondria, first heme biosynthesis involves 8 enzymatic steps. The conversions of glycine and succinyl coenzyme A to heme occurs in mitochondria. The first and last 3 enzymatic steps occurs in the mitochondria, and other 4 steps are occurred in cytosol. The first enzyme in heme biosynthesis pathway, that is the ALA synthase, the aminolevulinic acid synthase, catalyzes the condensation of glycine and succinyl coenzyme A to form aminolevulinic acid. Then ALA synthase is a rate limiting enzyme in liver. It can be induced by a variety of drugs, that is steroids and other chemicals. The second enzyme is ALA dehydratase, that is aminolevulinic dehydratase enzyme. It catalyzes the condensations of the 2 molecules of ALA to form porphobilinogen. Then hydroxymethylbilin synthase, that is HMB synthase, also known as porphobilinogen deaminase, catalyzes the condensations of four porphobilinogen molecules by a series of deamination to form the linear tetrapyrrole, that is hydroxymethylbilin. Then the uroporphyrinogen 3 synthase, that we called urosynthase, catalyze the rearrangement and rapid cyclizations of HMB to form uroporphyrinogen 3. Next, the fifth enzyme in the pathway is uroporphyrinogen decarboxylase, that is urodecarboxylase, catalyzes the reaction to form coproporphyrinogen 3 from uroporphyrinogen 3. This compound then enters the mitochondria where coprooxidase, the sixth enzyme, catalyzes the decarboxylation reaction to form protoporphyrinogen 9. Then protooxidase oxidizes the protoporphyrinogen 9 to protoporphyrin. This product of the reactions is a porphyrin. In contrast to the preceding tetrapyrrole intermediates, which are porphyrinogen. Finally, the ferrous ion is inserted into the protoporphyrin 9 to form heme with the help of the 8th enzyme, that is ferrochelatase. So this is all about the steps of heme biosynthetic pathway. This is another flowchart showing the different steps of heme biosynthesis pathway and the enzyme that needed at the various steps of pathway and the related porphyria. Like if the allyl dehydration enzyme is deficient, then it is called allyl dehydratase deficient porphyria. If porphobilinogen deaminase is deficient, then it is called acute intermittent porphyria, like this. Next, regulation of heme synthesis. Heme inhibits the synthesis of ALA synthase, is called repression mechanism. ALA synthase is also allosterically inhibited by hematine, which is administered during acute attack. The steps catalyzed by ferrochelatase and aldehyde are also inhibited by lead. Drugs like barbiturate also induce heme synthesis. Then high cellular concentrations of glucose prevent induction of ALA synthase. This is the basis of administration of glucose to relieve the acute attack of porphyrias. Now, regulations in the erythroid cells. The enzyme ALA synthase does not appear to control the heme synthesis in erythroid cells because uroporphyrin synthase and ferrochelatase mostly regulate heme synthesis in these cells. Now, the pathogenesis of porphyria. The enzyme deficiency in each of the three common disorders is only partial. The reduced activity of the respective enzyme is sufficient for the heme productions under normal circumstances. But when the precipitating factors are present that increase the liver heme demand that induce the ALA synthase. With increased ALA synthase activity, heme synthesis intermediates accumulate to the point where the partial enzyme deficiencies become limiting. The intermediates then accumulate in the liver and begin to spill over. In the porphyrin precursors are neurotoxic to PNS and ANS. Histological investigation reveals edema, degenerating and irregular actions, and damaged myelin sheaths. The possible mechanism of neurotoxicity include ALA is structurally similar to GABA and may inhibit GABA release. So it leads to the disturbance of neurochemical signaling. These porphyrin precursors may cause vascular injury, that leads to focal cerebral edema, and it also causes cerebral vasospasm leading to multifocal ischemia. Heme deficiency is also caused by degenerative changes in central nervous system. Now the classifications of porphyria. Heme is mainly required in bone marrow for hemoglobin synthesis and in liver for cytochrome synthesis. On the basis of that, porphyrias are divided into erythropoietic porphyrias and hepatic porphyrias. The hepatic porphyrias mainly affect nervous systems, and the erythropoietic porphyrias primarily affect skin. In erythropoietic porphyrias, enzyme deficiency occurs in bone marrow, and in hepatic porphyria, enzyme deficiency occurs in liver. Now next to the classification based on predominant clinical manifestations. If the clinical manifestation is mainly neuropsychiatric, it may be acute intermittent porphyria, or it may be a allied dehydratase deficient porphyria. If the main clinical manifestation is cutaneous, the most likely entities are congenital erythropoietic porphyria, porphyria cutanea tarda, and erythropoietic porphyria. In case of mixed manifestations, the main entities are hereditary coproporphyria and variegate porphyria. Next, the classification based on mode of presentation of disease. It can be presented as acute or it can be presented as cutaneous porphyria. In case of acute presentations, the main and most common entities are acute intermittent porphyria, allied dehydratase deficient porphyria, hereditary coproporphyria, and variegate porphyria. In case of non-acute presentation, that is cutaneous presentations, the entities are porphyria cutanea tarda, erythropoietic protoporphyria, congenital erythropoietic porphyria, and hepatoerythropoietic porphyria. This is another table that showing the different types of porphyria with the respective enzyme effect and the main characteristic clinical features. Like in case of hepatic porphyria, the main entities are acute intermittent porphyria. The enzyme mainly responsible for this is uroporphyrinogen 1 synthase, and the main characteristic, the main clinical manifestations it is abdominal pain and neuropsychiatric symptoms. In case of porphyria cutanea tarda, the main responsible enzyme is uroporphyrinogen decarboxylase, and it mainly manifests as a photosensitivity reaction. In case of hereditary coproporphyria, the main enzyme which is deficient is coproporphyrinogen oxidase, and it also present as the abdominal pain, photosensitivity, and neuropsychiatric symptoms, that is a mixed manifestations. And variegate porphyria, the main enzyme that is responsible for this is protoporphyrinogen oxidase, and it also manifests as a mixed characteristic like abdominal pain, photosensitivity, and neuropsychiatric symptoms. Now coming to erythropoietic porphyria, the main entities are congenital erythropoietic porphyrias and protoporphyria. In case of congenital erythropoietic porphyria, the enzyme which is deficient is uroporphyrinogen 3 co-synthase, and it manifests as a photosensitivity reaction and increased hemolysis. And next is protoporphyria, and the responsible enzyme is ferrochelatase, and it manifests as a photosensitivity reaction. Porphyrias present in two distinct syndromes, that is acute and chronic. The acute porphyrias are characterized by periodic acute attacks of neurovisceral symptoms, and it may stay for a long time. These porphyria syndrome are characterized by abdominal pain, neurologic deficient, psychiatric symptoms, and red colored urine. This is the color of urine during attack of during acute attack of porphyria. In urine, in case of acute attack, porphobilinogen is excreted through urine. This porphobilinogen is oxidized to porphobilin upon standing that gives rise to a dark brown colored urine. It is also called port wine reddish colored urine. Next, the chronic porphyrias. Chronic porphyrias are mainly the dermatologic disease, which may or may not involve the liver and nervous systems. In general, individuals with an enzyme defect prior to the synthesis of tetrapyrrole manifest abdominal and neuropsychiatric signs, whereas those with enzyme defects leading to the accumulation of tetrapyrrole intermediates show photosensitivity reaction. That is, their skin itches and burns when exposed to sunlight. Now, all types of porphyria exhibit the pattern of autosomal dominance except congenital erythropoietic porphyrias, which is autosomal recessive inheritance pattern. Next, I will discuss each type of porphyria in brief. First, alate dehydratase deficient porphyria. It is a rare condition and it has autosomal recessive inheritance pattern. It is characterized by the severe deficiency of alate dehydratase activity, most commonly involved the children or young adults. It has specific gene mutations, and the affected homozygotes has less than 10% of normal alate dehydratase activity, and the diagnosis is confirmed by a mutation analysis. The clinical features depends on the amount of residual alate dehydratase activity. It commonly affects male adolescents. The main symptoms are abdominal pain and polyneuropathy. Infants who present with more severe disease, including failing to thrive, beginning at birth. The diagnosis can be done by examining the urine. That in urine we can find a significant elevated level of plasma and urinary aminolevulinic acid, and urinary coproporphyrin level is also increased. And alate dehydratase activities in erythrocyte were less than 10% of normal activity. The differential diagnosis includes lead poisoning, because the leads also inhibits alate dehydratase, and there is also increase of urinary excretions of ALA and coproporphyrinogen 3, and it causes manifestation that's similar to the acute porphyria. Heterozygotes are clinically asymptomatic and they do not excrete increased level of ALA. It can be detected by intermediate level of erythrocyte alate dehydratase activity or specific mutations in the alate dehydratase gene. So this is all about the alate dehydratase deficient porphyria. Next, acute intermittent porphyria. It is autosomal dominant and it is most common type of acute porphyria, and this disorder occurs due to the deficiency of the enzyme uroporphyrinogen 1 synthase, and it is characterized by increased excretions of porphobilinogen and aminolevulinic acid, and the urine gets darkened on exposure to air due to conversions of porphobilinogen to porphobilin and porphyria. Is the other characteristic features of acute intermittent porphyria. It is usually expressed after puberty, and it has HMBS mutations in case of acute porphyria that occurs prior to puberty. It is more common in women. The symptoms include abdominal pain, tachycardia, hypertension due to sympathetic overactivity, proximal muscle weakness, and a pain in limb, head, neck, or chest, nausea, along with constipations. Then neuropsychiatric disturbances are also observed, and there may be sensory loss due to axonal degenerations, and it can progress to respiratory and bulbar paralysis, and it can and death if there is delay in diagnosis and treatment. These type of patients are not photosensitive because the enzyme defect occurs prior to the formations of uroporphyrinogen. And what are the precipitating factors? The main precipitating factors are endogenous and exogenous steroids, porphyrinogenic drugs, alcohol ingestions, low-calorie diets, and usually instituted for weight loss. And this type of attacks, acute attacks, can be prevented by avoiding known precipitating factors. Now coming to the complications of AIP. It can be sudden death because it maybe results from sympathetic overactivity and cardiac arrhythmia. And in case of seizures, treatment of seizures is difficult because most anti-seizure drugs can exacerbate the acute attack of porphyria. When an attack resolves, abdominal pain may disappear within hours and paresis begin to improve within days. Next, how to diagnose? We can diagnose the AIP by examining the urinary and plasma ALA and porphobilinogen level, which are increased during acute attacks. Diagnosis of an acute attack in a patient with biochemically proven AIP is based primarily on clinical features. Excretions of ALA and porphobilinogen decreases over a few days after the IV administrations of heme. Fecal porphyrin are usually normal or minimally increased in acute intermittent porphyria, in contrast to hereditary coproporphyria and variegate porphyria, in which fecal porphyrin level increased. If the patient do not complain any symptoms, they have this type of patients have normal urinary excretions of ALA and porphobilinogen. Detections of the family's HMB's mutations also will diagnose the asymptomatic family member. So it is more important in case of patients of AIP. Prognosis of individuals with HMBS mutation is generally favorable. Next, coming to hereditary coproporphyria. It is autosomal dominant. It has autosomal dominant inheritance, and it is characterized by deficiency of coproporphyrinogen oxidase enzyme. It manifests as acute attack, and photosensitivity can also occur. Coproporphyrinogen 3 and other intermediates, that is ALA and porphobilinogen, is also excreted in urine and through feces. So to control the acute attack, infusion of hematine is useful because hematine inhibits ALA synthase and thus reduces the accumulations of various intermediates. Next, variegate porphyria. The enzyme which is defective is protoporphyrinogen oxidase enzyme. Due to this blockade, protoporphyrin 9, which is required for the ultimate synthesis of heme, is not produced. So all the intermediates of the heme synthesis accumulates in the body and are excreted through urine and feces. Urine is red colored and is also associated with photosensitivity and the neurologic symptoms. Next, the other characteristic features of variegate porphyria is increased urinary ALA and porphobilinogen during acute attacks, increased fecal protoporphyrin and coproporphyrinogen 3, increased urinary porphyrin 3 are more persistent, plasma porphyrin levels are also increased, and increased erythrocyte levels of zinc protoporphyrin, which is characteristic findings in the all homozygous porphyrias. Next, Porphyria cutanea tarda. It is also known as cutaneous hepatic porphyria. This is the most common type of porphyria and it is usually associated with liver damage caused by the alcohol overconsumption or iron overload. It is characterized by partial deficiency of the enzyme uroporphyrinogen decarboxylase that leads to the increased excretions of uroporphyrins 1 and 3 and rarely porphobilin. Cutaneous photosensitivity is the most common clinical manifestations and the liver exhibit fluorescence due to high concentrations of accumulated porphyrin. The patients of Porphyria cutanea tarda present with skin fragility, erosions, vesicles, bulla and milia in sun-exposed area. Lesion may also occur on the forearm, face, leg and feet. Blistering skin lesions appear most commonly on the backs and sometimes there is presence of hyperpigmentations, hypertrichosis, sclerodermoid changes and ulcerations, but the neurologic features are absent. This is a microscopic picture of subepidermal blister formations with minimal cell-poor dermal inflammatory infiltrate. And the upper pictures show the skin thickening, focal hypo and hyperpigmentations, and the hypertrichosis of the face and extremities that are main characteristic features of Porphyria cutanea tarda. And in case of lower picture, this is another pictures from the patients of Porphyria cutanea tarda showing the hypopigmentations, erosion, ulcerations and blister formations in the fingers. Now coming to hereditary protoporphyria. It is also known as erythropoietic protoporphyria. It is the most common porphyria in children and second most common porphyria in adults. It is characterized by deficiency of the enzyme ferrochelatase. So protoporphyrin 9 accumulates in the bone marrow reticulocytes and then appears in plasma and is excreted into urine and feces. Reticulocyte and the skin biopsy exhibit red fluorescence due to porphyrin accumulations. This protoporphyrin transported to the vessels in the skin and it cause non-blistering photosensitivity. It also associated with substantial increase in the erythrocyte protoporphyrins that is predominantly free and not complexed with zinc. It is hallmark of erythropoietic protoporphyria. Other conditions of increased erythrocyte protoporphyrins are maybe lead poisoning, iron deficiency, various hemolytic disorders, all homozygous form of porphyrias, and but in all these conditions, in contrast to EPP, that means erythropoietic protoporphyria, it is complexed with zinc. Then congenital erythropoietic porphyria. This is a rare congenital disorder. It is autosomal recessive. It is confined to erythropoietic tissue. The individuals excrete uroporphyrinogen 1 and coproporphyrinogen 1, which oxidize respectively to form uroporphyrin 1 and coproporphyrin 1. This is termed red pigments. The patients are photosensitive and there is increased hemolysis that leads to splenomegaly due to marked increase in erythrocyte protoporphyrin level. This is a picture of an affected baby's diaper that demonstrates the red color of urine. And also the baby showed the features of vesicles, bulla and crust on sun-exposed areas and brownish teeth that fluoresce under the wood lamp examinations. Then coming to acquired porphyria. Acquired porphyria may be due to toxicity of several compounds. If there is exposure of the body to the heavy metals like leads, toxic compounds, and drugs, the symptoms like porphyria happen. Due to because due to this type of metals or toxic compounds inhibits the many enzymes in heme synthesis like aldehyde hydratase, uroporphyrin 1 synthase, and ferrochelatase. Now the clinical features of porphyria. Abdominal pain, peripheral neuropathy, and changes in the mental state are to be the classic triad of an acute attack. An attack begins with some behavioral changes like anxiety, restlessness, and insomnia. The abdominal pain is severe and is followed by constipation and vomiting. And it is also associated with pain in the back and limbs. And due to increased sympathetic nervous system activity, the BP is increased and tachycardia occur. The pain resolves within 7 days. If a precipitating agent is inadvertently given, a progressive neuropathy with muscle weakness, decreased reflexes, and shocks and glove sensory loss may become apparent and can lead to respiratory paralysis. Cardiac arrest and pneumonia associated with prolonged artificial ventilations are common cause of death. Hyponatremia commonly occurs during the acute attack of porphyria, and skin lesions occurs in acute attack in half of the people with variegate porphyria and 1/3 of those with hereditary coproporphyria. So this is the picture of the skin and cutaneous manifestations of porphyria. Now, what are the complications and causes of death? There may be sudden death due to sympathetic overactivity in cardiac arrhythmia, as I have told earlier in the slide. It may be cirrhosis, renal failure, neurological sequelae, hepatocellular carcinoma, chronic depression, and suicidal attempt. Now the diagnosis. The best time to attempt diagnosis is when the symptoms are active. Porphyria sufferers are affected by anything that can alter the function of deficient enzymes. The disease can occur to different degrees. Many drugs, alcohol, and even hormones can produce acute attacks by interfering with enzymatic function. Diagnosis may be done by examinations of urine, blood, and stool, and spectrophotometry that is used for porphyrins and their precursors coproporphyrins and uroporphyrins. In case of acute porphyria, there is elevated level of porphobilinogen and ALA as well as other porphyrins in urine. And in case of cutaneous porphyria, elevated level of porphyrins is present in plasma. And in case of stool test, it may reveal elevated levels of some porphyrin that may not be detected in urine samples. To demonstrate porphyrins, UV fluorescence is the best technique. Presence of porphyrin precursor in urine is detected by Ehrlich's reagent. When urine is observed under ultraviolet light, if porphyrin present will emit strong red fluorescence. Spectrophotometry is used to test for porphyrins and their precursors coproporphyrins and uroporphyrins. And last, the use of appropriate gene probe that has made possible for prenatal diagnosis of some porphyria. Now coming to approach. If your patients present with acute symptoms of porphyria like abdominal pain, neuropsychiatric disorder, go for a urine test for porphobilinogen. If it is positive, it may be a case of acute intermittent porphyria, variegate porphyria, and hereditary coproporphyria. Then you have to measure the fecal coproporphyrin and protoporphyrin 9 level. If it is negative, then AIP is confirmed. If in fecal sample protoporphyrin 9 is present in increased level, then it is variegate porphyria. If it is coproporphyrin 3 is increased, then it is hereditary coproporphyria. And primarily, if the urine porphobilinogen test is negative in urine, so you can exclude the diagnosis of porphyria. Next, if your patients present with cutaneous photosensitivity, go for free erythrocyte protoporphyrin level. If it is positive, then it is erythropoietic protoporphyria. If it is negative, then go for urinary and fecal total porphyrin level. If its result is positive, go for urine and fecal test and urine and fecal test. In case of urine, if uroporphyrinogen 1 and coproporphyrinogen 1 is present, then it is congenital erythropoietic porphyria. And in case of porphyria cutanea tarda is diagnosed when in fecal sample isocoproporphyrin level is increased. This is the flow chart showing the different types of porphyria and their excreted product in urine and feces. Actually, this is a summarized form as I have told earlier in the previous slides. These are all summarized here. So please go through the flow, go through this table. And this is another diagnostic algorithm. If there is clinical suspicions of porphyria and the patient is presented with acute symptoms like abdominal pain and neurological symptoms, you can test porphobilinogen in urine. If it is not increased, there is porphyria excluded. If it is increased, then go for fractionated porphyrins in feces. If there is no increased, this is acute intermittent porphyria. If it is increased, then go for protoporphyrin and coproporphyrin level in fecal sample. If it is present, then it's variegate porphyria, and if only coproporphyrin level is increased, then it is hereditary coproporphyria. If the patient is present with cutaneous photosensitivity, go for fractionated porphyrin levels in urine. If it is not increased, so porphyria excluded. If it is increased, or mildly increased, then go for erythrocyte protoporphyrin. If it is if the level is increased, it can be a erythropoietic protoporphyria. And if the uroheptan hexapenta iso octoporphyrin increase, it is defined as porphyria cutanea tarda. Now this is the another picture that another mainly algorithm that based on the main clinical symptoms. Please go through this chart. This is almost similar to the previous chart. I'm not describing it. This is the another table that are that showing the different investigation tests that used in diagnosis of porphyria. This is actually a summarized form that which I have told earlier in the previous slide. All are written here. So please go through this. Next, coming to the drugs. Coming to the drugs in which the porphyria patients should avoid, like the main culprit drugs of barbiturates, anticonvulsant, sulfonamides, antibiotics, ACE inhibitors, especially enalapril, and calcium channel blockers, especially nifedipine, metoclopramide, etc. Now, smoking, which increases hepatic cytochrome P450 enzyme and subsequently increase the heme synthesis, is also associated with more frequent porphyria attacks. So porphyria patients should avoid smoking. And beta carotene containing foods have been used in cutaneous porphyrias, and its success has been documented in various studies. Now this is a picture of the porphyria diet. Actually, I have taken this from Google. Then what should the porphyria patients should eat and what should not eat. These are all describing here. Then lifestyle modifications and preventions. If you have porphyria, learn what could trigger symptoms. Talk to your doctor about the type of porphyria you have and become familiar with possible symptoms trigger and way to avoid them. Inform your healthcare providers that you have porphyria because it is important sometimes because it is most important because sometimes the treatments or medication or surgery that you are going to receive can trigger the porphyria symptoms. Although there is no way to prevent porphyria, few steps may help to prevent the symptoms, like avoid medications that known to trigger acute attacks, and ask your doctor for a list of safe and unsafe drugs. Don't use alcohol, and avoid fasting and dieting that involves severe calorie restrictions. Don't smoke. Minimize sun exposure, and when you are in outdoors, wear protective clothing and use a sunscreen. Treat infections and other illness promptly, and reduce emotional stress. Consider genetic testing to determine whether your siblings and other family members have the disease or not. Now the people with porphyria. These pictures I have taken from Google. Now these are my references. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Madhumita. Can you just stop sharing your screen? That's important. Yeah, just stop presenting. Thank you so much. A very nice, brisk, and very clear-cut presentation. You have completely covered the entire porphyria from its beginning to the end, right up to what diet should be taken and how one may try to prevent a trigger. There's no way we can stop porphyria. We can stop the triggering effects of porphyria. The basic thing is that any element which is trying to release any free radical will try to trigger porphyria.
Porphyria.
That's right. Very nice presentation, Dr. Madhumita. You've done a wonderful job.
Thank you,
Very
sir.
nicely. And very clear. Your teaching was very clear and very crisp. And
I
you
was
could understand the entire.
I was little bit tensed.
No, don't need to be tense. I mean, this is a part of the learning process. Very nicely done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
God bless you. We will get back to you for maybe more lectures in the time to come.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Right. Take care. Thank you. Bye bye. Good night.
Bye, sir.